Hey there, this is Catherine Cartwright. Welcome to ScrapbookPal's channel. Be sure to subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber. There's some great content over here. I am going to be working with the Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil system and some of the plates, the hot foil plates as well. This one has sentiment strip. This is the Monoline stars. And then there's a full bloom poinsettia. And I've got all that linked in the description. So this beautiful foil plates that I'm going to use to create some projects. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I've got my hot foil system out here. I'm just going to quickly go over how I'm going to use this. So I'm cutting my paper to fit this die, the strip die. It needs to be big enough to cut all the way through the edges, so to speak. So if you cut it too small, like to the size of the little word sentiments, you won't have enough cardstock to cut your strips. So I'm just showing you that I had cut that big enough to cover that, but then I'm going to have a little bit of a smaller piece for the sentiment strips. They're a little bit smaller. And so I'm heating up my plate. And I love this system because you just plug it in and then it'll tell you that it's ready. So on the left hand side, there's that first button. And now I can add my hot foil plate to it. I'm going to hit the timer button at this point and it will heat up. And then I am ready to put my foil down and then add my cardstock. So you need to have the shiny side down for your foil when it's time. If you don't, you will end up foiling your plate, which I have accidentally done before, not paying attention. So just make sure that shiny side is facing down. And then I'm going to put my cardstock on top. I have pulled my little plate out so that I can add my shims to it. I have the 2 shims included in the set. And then I also have an extra piece of cardstock in there as an additional shim. I found that with my machine, with my platinum, that this works best. So the fun part about the foil is you can do lots of different things with it. And in this one, I'm going to show you how after I get the foil, I'll be able to cut out the strips. So just a lot of fun to be had. So I'm putting my hot plates onto a mat to cool, and then I will peel back this foil to show you what is left. And it looks great. I missed one little section. I think it said Joy to the World, so I missed one little bit. But for the most part, they turned out really well. If you ever have any over foiling, so some extra foil sticks, I just use a little eraser here. This is a sand eraser, but you can use a regular eraser as well to get that off of your cardstock. So now I'm going to take my sentiment strip here and I'm going to add it onto my sentiments, and then I will run those both through my die cutting machine, and I will have a bunch of strips. So I really love this die set, and you could also just use it for something else. So if you had some smaller stamps that coordinate with this shape, you could fit them on there too. But you could ink blend those strips. You could do a lot of things with them. Okay, so I'm going to add this panel to my foil again, letting it heat up. Everything's hot. I'm going to put that foil shiny side down, and then I've got my cardstock on there, and then I'll add my shims, and I'm going to run this through my machine again. So I'm just going to pull that out, and then I'll run this over to my machine and let you see how it turns out. So I'm using the gold foil on this one, and this is the star background, and it is beautiful. I think you could use this for a lot of different things, not just the holidays. And I love something that's so versatile like that. Okay, so here is how it turns out. It is really pretty, and it just foiled perfectly on this one. Now, off camera, I'm going to foil some more things. I'm going to do some on watercolor paper. I'm going to do some on plain paper, just white cardstock. I've got black cardstock that I put the gold on. I put red foil. I put a blue with silver, and then I did a couple of panels of the poinsettia bloom. And then I had some tags in my craft stash, and so I also did some of those. I thought those would be fun to work with as well. So I'm going to begin my projects now that I've shown you how to use the foil. I'm going to use my candied apple here. my Distress ink, and I'm going to ink blend onto this tag, and then I'm going to come back here with Festive Berries and do a little bit of ink blending around there. And then I'm going to switch to my greens. You could ink, the whole tag one color. You could use oxide sprays. You could do a lot of different techniques with this. I love foiling for this reason, because you get a little bit of a resist. And so this is always something when I do this technique of using foil that I always want to use these products, like a Distress or some kind of ink blending on top of it. Okay, so I've added Mowed Lawn on there, and then I'm just going to keep kind of going back and forth, ink blending to get it exactly how I want it to be. And then on the last thing I'll do is I'm going to take a paper towel. Since I have ink blended on top of this, it will resist the ink a little bit. So just to make sure that I don't have any extra ink, I am going to use a paper towel, and I will wipe this off, and then you can really see the gold come out. So I've got a paper towel there to wipe that off. And now I'm ready to assemble my tag. So I have the little sentiment strip. I'm using Making Spirits Bright. I've got a little bit of foam adhesive here. I'm just going to pop this up on the bottom of my tag, and then I'll be able to write or stamp on the back, and it is ready for a holiday gift. But first I'm going to add a little piece of gold string and some red and white twine from my craft stash, and I'm just going to use that to create the tails, so to speak, to be able to tie this onto a present or maybe a bottle of wine or some kind of gift. And then I also have these little jingle bells in my craft stash that I keep for the holidays, and I like to add them to my gift tags. So I've just tied 3 of them onto a little gold string, and then I will knot this around and tie this off and trim it down. And then I've got a fun, festive tag with all of that beautiful gold foil peeking out for the gift recipient. So I'm just going to trim those tails, and that tag is done. All right, so I've got another panel here. This one I foiled onto watercolor paper, okay? And I am using some Distress inks here. I am just using my little water brush, and I am going to try and control a little bit of my water flow. The thing also I like about using the foil plates is it's not a raised edge per se like it would be with heat embossing, but you do get some impression, and so it does help you kind of contain your liquid and your ink, so to speak, on the watercolor. So that's another way to help you watercolor. But I do take my time when I do things like this. I can get a little heavy-handed with my brush. If you squeeze too much, especially on this little tiny small section, your water will get out of there. So I just take my time, and then I also use a little microfiber towel, I should say, over here, and that lets me kind of grab some water. Sometimes if I squeeze too hard and I have a little too much flow, I can kind of dot that off. But the other thing too, when I watercolor, I like to let the sections dry so I don't stick my hand in there. Sometimes it takes a second for it to soak into the paper, especially if you can be a little heavy-handed like me. So I always like to work slowly. Although this video is sped up, I definitely am taking my time, and also am making sure that I am watercoloring the right sections. With this gold foil, it's a little hard to see with the camera on there, so I'm just going to kind of lift it up at times so I can make sure that I'm coloring the correct area. So I'm using the Festive Berries on the Festive Berries, and then I'm going to use Candied Apple for my big poinsettia bloom. So again, you could make this any color you wanted. You could do blues, you could do pinks, you could do any color. You could make it whatever you want it to be. That's what I love about these kind of things. And when you have, some inks like a Distress that you can watercolor with, the sky really is the limit. Okay, so now I'm moving on to that big bloom. So pretty. It's hard to believe that the year is almost over. I can't believe it's already way into October, and we are looking at the holidays just around the corner. It has been a very, very quick year. So I'm taking a second here. I want to go ahead and run my color around the center of the berries because, or the little centers of the poinsettia, I should say. They're not berries. I don't actually know what they're called, what their technical term is, but the center that you always see, and I'm going to make that yellow. Okay, so I've just got to finish that off. I'm going back here and I'm just looking for any little areas that I may have missed. When you watercolor like this, you can see the whiteness peeking through if you missed a spot. And so I like to go back and try and fill that in. And here I'm going to use mustard seed to finish off my card. So that panel is nice and dry and now it's ready to be assembled. So fun. And I'm just taking my glue here, I should say, and I'm going to adhere this to my card. I've got that onto a piece of dark green cardstock, and then I will put this onto an A2 sized red card base that kind of ties all of those colors together. The last touch here is going to be one more of those sentiment strips, and I'm using a little bit more foam to pop that up, and then that will complete this card. It really doesn't need anything else, and it's pretty much one layer. If you wanted to make it one layer, you could take that foam off, but you get a lot of bang for your buck with that one. It is really, really pretty. Okay, so my last project I'm going to use, I have another piece that I made with the Monoline stars, and I am going to ink blend this. I've got 3 shades. I've got saltwater taffy, worn lipstick, and picked raspberry, and I am going to blend all of this together onto this panel, and then I will assemble my card. So I'm just taking a second here, going back and forth between colors, similarly to how I did with the tag, until I get that ink blend where I want it to be. That's one of the things I love about distressing, because it's very forgiving and it lets, it kind of moves on the paper, so to speak, and so you can just get these great blends together. And when I'm happy with that, I'll wipe that down one more time, just making sure there's no excess ink on top of my panel. Now off camera, I have stamped and die cut birthday wishes. This is a stamp set from Honeybee Stamps that you can find in the store. And I thought it would be fun to make a card that is not holiday themed, just to show you the flexibility of what you can do just by changing the ink colors. If you have sprays and things like that, you could do that as well. But it doesn't have to be, like I said, just for the holiday. So I love the way this turned out. I add a little bit of foam onto those words. I'm going to get them into place, and then I will press it down there. And there we go, a fun star-themed birthday card. All right, so just a quick recap. Here's that tag that I ink blended. Here is the watercolored panel using the foil plates, and then the gorgeous star one. So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to ScrapbookPal if you haven't already. Be sure to check out the store. They always have great new products. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.